Hi everyone, and welcome to another monthly update where I tell you everything about the LED projects I work on, what progress I made, and what comes next. So talking about a little bit of a preview first, I got a new luggage. If you might know, I used to have this scooter luggage, which was great for traveling before the pandemic. And of course I also added LEDs because you need LEDs on a luggage and scooter, both for safety and also because it looks great. But it was time to replace this luggage. It was already falling apart. There was some part broken, and this is why I haven't used it in a while. So I got a new one that is actually even smaller and should also cause less trouble with putting it on the airplane. But I also will think about adding LEDs to this luggage, of course, as well. Nothing that I'm gonna do in the next few days, but I definitely have it on my radar for the next weeks. So it's gonna be exciting to work on. Continuing, beginning of the month, let's say there've been a lot of public viewing on TV outside going on. A lot of TVs outside, and it was super annoying, and so I thought, oh, I should really get my TV Be Gone working again. TV Be Gone is, by the way, a project of a friend of mine. It's basically just a TV remote to turn TVs off, and that's all it does. But technically, you can also turn them on again, but let's focus on the turning it off part. I had one, it didn't work, so went to the friend who built it, and was actually a way easier fix to get it working again than I expected it to. Turn out the batteries were just empty. Anyway, I designed a quick case to protect it properly enough, and voila, I had a working TV Be Gone that was great for turning off TVs while there have been a lot of people outside watching soccer games. It was great. Yeah, but let's come to the big projects that I worked on this month. So, and the first main project that I worked on was the glowing tube. The idea that was inspired by a friend of mine in Switzerland who was working on this LED tube, and I thought that's actually a good form factor. That would solve a lot of issues that I had with the glowing stripes when it comes to stability and things bending as soon as you get to a longer length. And yeah, I started building prototype just to get a feeling of how the light would basically diffuse in this acrylic tube that I got. I must say it already looked pretty awesome. My original plan was to put the LED strip in the middle, but I do think it's much better to put it on one side basically, so that most of the LED tube from the front just looks like the whole tube would glow. And then on the back you basically could put it on the wall and then have also some extra reflection from the wall. Because otherwise I think it's very tricky to get it completely evenly glowing, from all directions. Might find a solution for that, but I'm gonna make some more prototypes in the next few weeks to get that solved basically. Well, and then I did something I haven't done in quite a while, and I was visiting an exhibit. Basically an art exhibition, if you want to call it like this, with a lot of LED installations. Called Dark Matter in Berlin. That was also suggested by a friend of mine, and it was pretty impressive. I mean, some parts have been pretty cool and pretty impressive, and my key learning from this was really that if you really want to have the most impressive LED installations, they basically have three aspects. One is of course light, second is sound, having it react to sound or be in combination with music and stuff like this. And the third, and that's the part I completely ignored so far, is movement. If you have the LEDs moving, the LED strips moving, or whatever is glowing, you can create some really cool things. And yeah, there are some ideas that I have in my head, and I think at some point in the future, in the next few months, I definitely would like to also experiment with LEDs that are moving. So basically having all these three aspects in one project combined. Last month I talked a lot about resin 3D printing. And one of the remaining issues that I had with the resin printer, I mean pretty much the only remaining issue that I have with the resin 3D printer, is the smell. You definitely don't want to breathe in the fumes that are created by the resin. And so I started to design a case, and I'm happy to announce that the design is finished. I also 3D printed the parts, and the quality is awesome, and I think they also fit perfectly. However, when I then prepared the files for the laser cutter to actually laser cut the plates that are basically going to be the walls of the printer and the ceiling, I went to a makerspace nearby where someone was able to help me with laser cutting the stuff there, since we're talking about quite large plates that I got. And yeah, it turns out I got the wrong plates. Wow. Yeah, I didn't got acrylic plates apparently, but some other kind of plastic, which is definitely not compatible with a laser cutter. So yeah, that was a bummer, because it means that I not only just wasted some money on these plates, but I also have to get new ones, and oh well. But I'm gonna do that in the next few weeks, and then I can finally finish the printer case. Finally. Yeah, it was meant to be a small project, but turned out to be a bigger one. Of course, it always does. Next, let's talk about bikes. Actually, my glowing bike. I finally fixed it. The LEDs are working again. I basically completely took off the existing LED strips and the rainbow fur and added it again completely from scratch. This time with like a much better way of connecting the LED strips by using connectors. So whenever I do want to make changes and replace the LED strips, it's a lot easier to do now. However, it's still kind of an improvised version at the moment, because while it does mostly work well, there's still some like I don't have a case for the electronics that's like properly protecting and that's also stable without using tape, which I use at the moment. So that's one of the things I still need to do, like designing a proper enclosure for the electronics, as well as the designing and printing something where I actually put the LED strips inside, so that the whole case kind of glows and that case gets connected to the bike itself. You're gonna see what I mean in the next few weeks, but it's gonna look pretty nicely. I already did tested a design for like the electronics case basically, and also having a LiPo battery inside. But then I realized that first of all, this design was already good, but still had some issues, and it was not like you could open and close it a few times and then it was basically broken. But the main issue was that I realized, yeah, I'm not gonna use this 3000 mAh LiPo battery there. That's just not easy to replace. Instead, it makes much more sense in this case to use an external battery with just USB slots, USB plugs. So I not only can then power the microcontroller, which I can then also just use a cheaper one that doesn't have like a LiPo connector and charging circuit, but also it allows me to connect a cable again for charging a phone. So yeah, these are some things I'm gonna left doing with the bike. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to how it looks like. Critical mass was already pretty nice now with the current bike setup, and in the future it's just gonna be even more awesome. I really hope I'm gonna get it finished for next critical mass, which is end of the month, last Friday of the month always, in Berlin, where hundreds of people basically go on their bikes and demonstrate on the bike, while basically also doing a huge party, driving across the city. It's a lot of fun, with LEDs even more. And now let's talk about probably I'm not sure if I can say my favorite project, but like I love them all. They're my children. No, but one of my favorite projects, the glowing wristband, glowing arms 2.0. I did made, well, I worked on the electronics and basically tried to finalize what electronics I need to include, what parts to make it work really well. I tried to make it work with this tiny Pico microcontroller, which is an ESP32 board. In many cases it's great, but it turned out it's probably not great for my use case. Apparently it's really designed and optimized for ultra low power usage projects that need to be super, super tiny. In my case, LEDs do need some power, and so I ended up having to use, or going back to using the other microcontroller that I already tested before, which is the Go T7. It's a nice board, but it is also larger. So the case is going to be a little bit larger. It's still going to be fine, and it's still going to be way smaller than the first generation. But yeah, I also found a tinier microphone, switched from an analog one to a digital one, and that's also making a huge improvement when it comes to the quality of the reacting to sound. I do feel it's reacting quicker to the sound. Like if you have like animations that react to the music, I feel like it's more instant because of this new microphone, and it's also smaller, which is awesome. So yeah. One last thing I still need to fix when it comes to the hardware. I noticed that when the battery is getting more and more empty, I don't know how many percentage, but let's say going down to like 5% battery charge, I noticed instead of turning off like the previous setup that I had without WLED, the library, it was just turning off, but now with WLED, it restarts, it reboots all the time, and you notice that animation restarts all the time once the LiPo gets more empty. There seems to be a hardware fix for this. I heard some suggestions from some people on Discord, which, by the way, a big shout out and a huge thanks for everyone on Discord. There are a lot of great communities when it comes to doing stuff with the Tiny Pico, with WLED, and I learned a lot already. And honestly, without people there, I would have had a lot more trouble. And I'm not sure how long it would have taken me to solve my issues. But yeah, great community. And I'm sure I'm gonna get the glowing wristband fixed and finished within the next few weeks, and then also going to design a finalized case now and 3D print it, and then concentrate on the fabric that goes around the LED strips. Yeah, looking forward to it. I want to dance with LEDs again. Well, and then one last thing, the last project that I worked on was basically finishing up and publishing the glowing stripes. The one main part of that was finishing up and publishing the glowing core, which is, this hardware package where you have all the electronics inside to easily power LED strips that you want. And I, not just finished up the design, but create a README for the repo where I explain how you can build it yourself, and even made some nice GIF animations to really show in an easy way how you just easily build it up together in a few minutes. And also started to make some smaller changes to the WLED repo, which the glowing core is basically based on. And bigger changes will come in the future, basically, where I completely replace the front end with a much easier to use interface. That's also going to be very nice. So the thing that basically remains is to do the same, like preparing everything to be published and make open source for the glowing stripe itself, for the case, for the connectors for the LED strips, and for the stand and wall mount. That's what I'm gonna do in the next few days. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. So yeah, to summarize what's gonna happen in the next month, in August, I will finish up the glowing stripes and publish it within the next few days, don't worry. And after this, designing a finalized version of the glowing arms case, and also fixing that battery issue, or that rebooting issue once the battery gets more empty. I'm gonna finish up this 3D printer case after laser cutting the acrylic plates this time, and not some different wrong kinds of plates. And yeah, besides that, making my bike glow even better. Basically designing and printing and mounting, of course, parts, 3D printed parts on the bike where the electronics is going to be protected in, where the LED strips are going to glow in, and also thinking about having a stand for a speaker on the back. So it's just very easy to put on a speaker, a bigger one for critical mass, as one needs, you know. But yeah, so that's basically what I mostly focus on. There's still some other projects that I have in my head. I want to make a new prototype for the glowing tubes. I want to add LEDs to my luggage, as I mentioned. I will see how far I will come with each one of those. I don't want to commit to too many things. But my focus is going to be on the glowing wristband and the printer case, and of course in the next few days also just finishing up the glowing stripes. So yeah, that's basically it for this month. Hope to see you in the next monthly update, and up to then, have a good time, and yeah, see you. Bye.